On a serene morning in early May 2006, the sleepy village of Anyang, nestled along the banks of the Shangqiao River in Hunan province, began its daily rhythm. The gentle murmur of water and the soft rustling of leaves set a calm scene, one that had remained unchanged for decades. Gao Chuhan, a weathered local fisherman, prepared for another routine day by the river, unaware that this morning would forever shatter the village's peace. The Shangqiao River, narrow and slow, was often clogged by thick mats of water hyacinths drifting on its surface. These green plants, while beautiful from afar, frequently blocked the flow and frustrated the locals who depended on the river's bounty. Gao set out in his small wooden boat, nets in hand, intent on clearing the hyacinths to ensure a good catch. As Gao swept his net through the tangled masses, a sudden and overpowering stench invaded the air, a foul odor unlike anything the fisherman had ever encountered. The scent grew stronger with each gust of wind, turning the peaceful morning into a scene charged with unease. Gao's heart pounded as his eyes caught sight of a dark, indistinct shape entangled in the hyacinths, floating silently but unnervingly on the water's surface. Compelled by a mix of dread and curiosity, Gao edged his boat closer. The shape revealed itself, the lifeless body of a woman, drifting helplessly without a head. The shocking sight sent a jolt of terror through him, the grotesque absence of the victim's head painting a chilling portrait of brutality. His hands trembled as he realized this was no ordinary accident but a crime that demanded urgent attention. Overcome by shock, Gao stumbled backward, nearly toppling into the river's cold embrace. His startled cry drew the attention of a nearby young man who swiftly rushed over to assist. Together, they managed to pull Gao to safety, but the image of the headless body lingered, a haunting specter marking the start of a dark and complex mystery. News of the grisly discovery spread rapidly through the village, stirring whispers and unease among the residents. What had happened to this woman? Who could commit such a heinous act? As the local authorities were alerted, the peaceful rhythm of the community braced for an investigation that would uncover unsettling truths hidden beneath the river's calm surface. The police wasted no time. Their boats glided silently to the tangled spot where the body was ensnared. Forensic teams arrived soon after, methodically working to retrieve the victim from the dense hyacinth mats. The victim was a woman of advanced age, but the missing head and finger made identification an arduous challenge. Early examinations revealed disturbing details. The victim had been dead several days, her skin showing signs of prolonged water exposure. An intimate forensic analysis uncovered traces of semen, indicating she had engaged in sexual activity shortly before her death, a chilling clue that pointed toward a deeper, more sinister story. Yet, there were no overt signs of struggle on the body, no bruises, no burns, no external wounds. The crime scene suggested that the river was merely a dumping ground, and the real horror had occurred somewhere else, hidden from the water's edge. The investigation had just begun, but the complexity was clear. What secrets did this woman's life hold? And who would want to silence her so cruelly? As the village watched with bated breath, a haunting question lingered in the air. Beneath the placid waters of the Shangqiao River, what darkness was waiting to surface? As the local police secured the riverbank, forensic experts began their meticulous work to uncover the truth behind the chilling discovery. The waterlogged body was carefully lifted onto the shore, revealing the full extent of the grim scene: a woman in her late 60s, her head cruelly severed, and a missing ring finger adding an eerie detail to the already harrowing tableau. Inside the makeshift examination tent, pathologists examined the victim's body with clinical precision. They estimated she had been dead for 3 to 5 days, her skin swollen and peeling from prolonged immersion in water. This macabre state made their task all the more difficult, as many physical clues had faded beneath the river's surface. Yet, even amid the decay, critical evidence emerged. Traces of semen found in the victim's body suggested recent sexual activity, hinting at a disturbing chapter in her final days. But no external wounds, no bruises, no signs of a violent struggle, complicated the picture, leaving investigators to ponder, had this been a consensual encounter turned deadly, or something far more sinister? The absence of the victim's head and ring finger led investigators to suspect that the perpetrator sought to obstruct identification. Yet the decision to dispose of these particular parts in the river seemed calculated, a deliberate act to sow confusion and delay justice. The river was not merely a dumping ground, it was part of a cruel strategy. Forensic teams expanded their search, combing the river and its surroundings for further evidence. They enlisted local environmental workers and villagers to assist, scouring the murky waters and tangled vegetation, hoping to uncover the victim's missing parts or any clues left behind. Hours turned to days, but the river guarded its secrets stubbornly. Despite their efforts, the missing head and finger were nowhere to be found. The victim's identity remained a mystery, complicated further by the loss of fingerprints and facial features. Investigators turned to the community, questioning neighbors and reviewing recent reports of missing persons, hoping someone might recognize the tragedy that had drifted into their midst. No immediate matches emerged. No reports of local women missing. The victim seemed a stranger in this close-knit community, fueling speculation and unease. Had she come from another town? Was her arrival and subsequent death linked to something deeper, hidden beneath the surface of everyday village life? 2 days after the body's discovery, a breakthrough arrived in the form of a man at the police station, a 55-year-old named Chen Junkang. He identified the victim as his missing older sister, Chen Talu, who had vanished without a trace despite frantic family searches and police inquiries. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation. DNA tests confirmed Chen Talu's identity, providing a grim closure to her family but opening a labyrinth of questions about the circumstances that led to her brutal demise. The investigators now had a victim with a story, a family, and a past to unravel. The river's dark secret was only the beginning. What had happened to Chen Talu in her final days? Who had the motive to silence her so mercilessly? The answers lay buried deep within the folds of family secrets and village whispers, waiting to be uncovered by those determined to bring justice. With Chen Talu's identity confirmed, the investigation shifted focus to her life, her relationships, her daily routines, and the shadows that may have lurked behind her quiet existence. The victim was a 70-year-old woman, known to many but truly understood by few, especially when it came to the storm brewing within her own family. Chen Talu had raised her only son, Luanja, alone after her husband's untimely death. Their bond was strong but complicated. Neighbors whispered of tension, unusual closeness, and troubling rumors that painted a portrait far darker than the simple village life suggested. Luanja's past was marked by violence, rebellion, and brushes with the law. School troubles, fights, and a troubled youth set the stage for a man struggling to break free from his past and perhaps from the shadow of his mother's overbearing control. The mother-son relationship took on an unhealthy dynamic, one whispered about but rarely confronted openly. Lu's marriages faltered, strained by his mother's interference and possessiveness. The village's tight-knit fabric was stained with secrets, and the lines between love and control blurred dangerously. As investigators delved deeper, they uncovered a web of complex emotions and bitter conflicts. The question emerged: could a mother's love, twisted by obsession and fear, become a catalyst for tragedy? And could a son's desperate need for freedom drive him to unthinkable extremes? To understand the tragedy, one must look beyond the river's dark waters and into the tangled human relationships beneath, a family bound by blood, burdened by secrets, and trapped in a cycle of pain that would ultimately explode in violence. The villagers recalled occasional outbursts, whispers of strange behavior, and moments when the family seemed to isolate themselves. But no one had imagined the depths of despair hidden behind closed doors, a reminder that appearances often deceive. As the investigation progressed, the detectives pieced together a timeline. Chantalou disappeared around May 1st, and her son's alibi was shaky at best. The family dynamics, long simmering with tension, now became central to solving the mystery. In the shadows of this seemingly quiet village, the line between victim and perpetrator blurred, forcing everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about family, control, and the human capacity for darkness. What secrets did Luanja carry? And how far would a man go when trapped between love, fear, and desperation? The answers lay ahead, in a story more disturbing than anyone dared to imagine. The fabric of the family was unraveling, thread by painful thread. Chantalou's unwavering control over her son, Luanja, had fostered a suffocating environment, one where love twisted into possession, and care turned into control. Their relationship was a web of complex emotions few dared to understand or speak about openly. Neighbors recalled whispered rumors of an unhealthy closeness, something that edged beyond conventional boundaries. The village, tight-knit and observant, began to murmur about the strange dynamics within the household, but cultural taboos silenced most. Luanja's history was riddled with trouble, school expulsions, fights, and early brushes with the law. His rebellious spirit seemed both a cry for freedom and a manifestation of the turmoil within. Yet, beneath this exterior lay a man trapped by years of emotional manipulation and blurred lines of affection. His marriages failed one after another. Both wives struggled under the shadow of Chantalou's influence, which seeped relentlessly into their private lives. The mother's intrusion turned even simple moments into battlegrounds, poisoning relationships and sowing discord. One neighbor spoke softly of overheard arguments, late-night confrontations, and the quiet despair that hung over the family like a storm cloud. The mother's grip tightened, fueled by fear of abandonment and a desperate need to hold onto what she had left. Inside this suffocating environment, Luanja struggled not only with his past mistakes but with the heavy chains of a love turned toxic. The psychological toll was immense, warping his sense of self and skewing his understanding of loyalty and freedom. This was a family fractured by isolation and secrecy, a microcosm of broader social challenges faced by rural communities where silence often shields suffering, and shame buries truth. Understanding these layers was critical for the investigation. It became clear that the answers were not merely in the physical evidence but in untangling decades of emotional bondage, unspoken trauma, and fractured trust. The question looming over the case was whether this deeply damaged bond had paved the way for the unimaginable, a son driven to destroy the very woman who raised him, in a desperate bid for freedom from a prison of her making. What hidden wounds festered beneath the surface? And how did love, when twisted by control and fear, become the catalyst for such tragedy? The investigation was just beginning to peel back these painful layers. With the victim identified and her troubled family history coming to light, investigators intensified their focus on the son, Lu Anja. They began covert surveillance, watching his movements, noting every interaction and financial transaction with keen interest. Suspicion grew as Lu frequently withdrew cash from his mother's savings. 10,000 yuan had vanished mysteriously. His evasive answers and inconsistent alibis raised red flags. It was clear he was hiding more than just financial secrets. Meanwhile, his wife, Dianquo, revealed cracks in their relationship, heated arguments, unexplained absences, and an escalating tension that troubled those around them. The couple's private struggles were becoming a focal point in the investigation. Detectives interviewed friends and neighbors who painted a picture of a man tormented by inner demons, a volatile mix of guilt, resentment, and despair. These testimonies offered glimpses into a life spiraling toward disaster. Confronted with mounting evidence, Lu's defenses began to crumble. The pressure of police questioning, combined with insights from those close to him, pushed him toward a breaking point. Investigators uncovered troubling communications, heated phone calls, threats, and bitter words exchanged within the family, signaling that the tragedy was not born from a single moment, but from a long festering storm of conflict. The web of relationships grew increasingly tangled. Attention turned to other family members and acquaintances, but none displayed the suspicious behavior seen in Lu. The case was closing in on him. Despite the growing suspicion, the evidence was circumstantial. Without a confession or hard proof, prosecutors faced challenges in building a case that would withstand scrutiny in court. But in the shadows of this rural village, secrets have a way of surfacing, especially when those closest to the truth begin to speak. An unexpected tip from a close friend of Lu would soon turn the tide of the investigation. Would the truth finally emerge from the tangled web of lies and silence? The investigation reached a pivotal crossroads, one that would unravel the darkest parts of this family's tragedy. Under the relentless spotlight of interrogation, Lu Anja's defenses began to crumble. The weight of years spent trapped in a suffocating relationship with his mother, combined with the mounting evidence, pushed him to reveal the unimaginable truth. He confessed to strangling Chentalu in a moment of desperation, his emotions a volatile mixture of anger, fear, and longing for freedom. The years of psychological torment and a twisted bond had reached a breaking point that night. After the fatal act, he mutilated the body, severing her head and cutting off her ring finger. These grim steps were taken to obstruct identification and delay justice, a calculated attempt to erase the traces of their twisted history. Yet beneath his confession lay a complex web of guilt and remorse. Lu's trembling hands and haunted eyes betrayed a man tormented by his own actions, caught between the desire to escape and the crushing weight of what he had done. The investigators listened carefully as Lu recounted the final moments, a fight born from years of pent-up pain, a desperate attempt to reclaim control over his own life, which instead spiraled into irreversible tragedy. The physical evidence matched his account. The severed head and finger found near the river, the bloodstains on household objects, and DNA tests that linked Lu directly to the victim all painted a grim picture that left little room for doubt. The community reeled as the truth emerged, a story of love twisted into control, and desperation turned to violence. This tragic ending was not just a crime but a harsh reflection of a family broken beyond repair. The case raised haunting questions about mental health, family dynamics, and the hidden suffering within rural communities, issues often overlooked but urgently needing attention to prevent similar tragedies. As justice moved forward, the story served as a stark reminder of the silent battles waged behind closed doors, and the profound consequences when love becomes a cage rather than a refuge. What lessons can be learned from this tragic tale? And how can communities better protect their vulnerable members before despair turns to violence? The answers remain an urgent call for reflection and change. The courtroom was heavy with silence as the judge delivered the verdict. Luanja was found guilty of intentional homicide, his sentence the harshest under the law, the death penalty. Justice, though served, could not erase the pain left in the wake of this tragic case. The case shocked the nation, igniting intense discussions about family abuse, mental illness, and societal neglect, especially in remote rural communities where many suffer in silence. It became a symbol of the urgent need for awareness and support systems. This tragic story reminds us that behind closed doors, countless individuals endure hidden battles. It calls for compassion, vigilance, and a commitment to breaking the cycles of abuse before they end in irreversible harm. Families must nurture love without chains, offering freedom and understanding rather than control and fear. Society must provide resources to those silently suffering, ensuring that no one falls through the cracks. As we close this chapter, we urge viewers to reflect on the delicate balance between love and control, and to recognize the signs of distress in those around them. Sometimes, intervention can save a life before tragedy strikes. Thank you for joining us on this somber journey into the depths of a family's tragedy. Your attention honors the memory of those lost and highlights the importance of understanding and prevention. If this story moved you, please like and share to raise awareness about the hidden struggles many face. Your support helps bring these critical conversations into the light. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth investigations into true crime stories that unveil the truths beneath the surface, helping us all learn, reflect, and grow together. Remember, every story told is a chance to shine a light in the darkness. Together, we can foster compassion and build a safer, more understanding world for all. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and take care of one another.